Hello, in this video what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at C# and putting something out in a console window like a story, but taking in some information like a person's age and their name and adding it to the story. Let's get started. So here I am in Visual Studio. I'm going to go ahead and start a new project, and it's going to be a console window project, so I don't have to worry about all the interface stuff, so I can just focus on the logic. So I'm going to go here to a project, start a new project. I'm going to make sure that it says Visual C#. And then I'm going to go ahead and name the project down here. Just call it Story Game. And then I'm just going to click OK from there. Well, actually, C#, and then I'm going to make sure that I have this console window app selected. And you can use the .NET framework portion here, then click OK. We're going to put everything into our main function here. And basically what we're going to do is we're looking to go ahead and take a story. And I actually pulled this one from online. And all I did here was I added these areas here for where the name is going to go. And then I added this area here for where the age is going to go. So basically I have the name here, the name, age here, and then down here, the name. So I'm going to need a variable to hold these things. I'm going to go back in here into my main program, and inside of this main I'm going to go ahead and start creating some variables. I'm going to start off with a string, and that's going to be called the story, and for right now I'm just going to make that empty, and then I'm going to close that off. The next thing I'm going to need is a date of birth, so the user is going to put in a date of birth, and that's going to be an integer because I'm going to use it as a I'm going to calculate it. Calculate the age using that, and then I'm going to need an integer for the year, and for right now we're just going to put the current year. The user doesn't have to put the year there, and then so that's going to be year, or you can say current year, it's up to you. I'm going to say 2019, and then the username or player name, it's up to you how you want to do that, and that's a string. Now the story, I didn't put the story up here yet because we're pretty much going to copy and paste that, so that's pretty straightforward. What I want to do now is talk about how I'm going to get the input from the user. First I have to prompt them, and I want to prompt them with the age since that's the first thing I'm going to be using. So I'm going to say console.writeLine. What is, well, what year were you born? Maybe I can just put that. What year were you born? Now, if you notice how I wrote this here, first I wrote this part, then I put the parentheses in, then I wrote what goes in the middle. Now, I do that because I don't want to make a mistake if I'm doing a lot of code and forget these parentheses or the semicolon or anything like that. So this is why I create the structure of the right line first, then I put the content on the inside second. It's a habit that actually will save you a lot of trouble in the future. So now that we have something that we're going to ask the user of, let's go ahead and test this, and really we should see no errors, and it should pop up what year were you born. Now if I were to just hit play, it's going to open and close very quickly because this is a console window application. So what I'm going to have to do is hit Control F5 or go here to debug right here and then start without debugging, and then it'll open up the console window and it'll stay open. And as you can see, press any key to continue. We do have our, over here, we do have our what year were you born, so I can go ahead and close that and then move on from there. So that test is done. I'm going to be testing every time to make sure that I'm not running into any silly errors or anything like that that's going to compromise the application. So down here I'm going to ask to read the line. Now whatever the user puts in after this, I want to be able to read that. So when they type something into the console, and basically I'm going to put that into a string called value, and I'm going to write console instead of write line, I'm going to put read line. Now this is going to take whatever input the user brings into the console window. Now what do I want to read? I want to read the value here has to be able to be converted to a number. Okay, so I'm going to use a special function inside of C# called int32, and it has a parse function on there that takes a value, and then it'll spit it out as an integer if it can be converted to an integer. So it's going to test to see if it can be converted into an integer. So the date of birth I want the date of birth is going to equal that int32, and I want to parse whatever the user gives me. So the information the user gives me is going to be this value here. So I want to parse that value. And I should be able to get a number out of this. So let me go ahead and write this out. Now, it's possible that I might get an error out of here because this is not a string. It's going to convert it to an integer. So probably get an error out of here because the right line accepts strings. So let me go ahead and run that. It's asking me, what year were you born? Let's try some year, not necessarily mine, but just put it there. And it says 1983, 1983. That's really not necessarily what we're looking for. But it is correct because we didn't really do any evaluation on that. We did get 1983. We're not looking for 1983. We're looking for the age. So what we can do is, since we are getting 1983, we can do our calculation of the age here. And I'm going to check to make sure that somebody didn't put 0 here. So I'm going to do a little test here. I want to check to see if DOB is greater than 0. So if the date of birth is greater than 0, then go ahead and do the calculation for the age. And I'm going to create an integer here, value here, called age. And that's going to equal the year minus the DOB. So here's where I'm going to get the age. Now I can go ahead and write that age out down here. So I'm going to take this here and put it in there. Take this age out here, put it in there. Let's save that, run it, and it's at 1983. And there we have that age there. Let's try it again. Say 1993, 26. That's pretty good. So we got what we want. We got the age out of this. Now all we need to do is go ahead and grab the user's name. So after we get the age, we want to ask them what's their name, what the character name is. So we have this age. We're going to do this same thing again down here. And we're going to say, what is your name? And then we're going to write again. We're going to do the value again. So the value will equal that. Now, I took this string off of here because I am declaring it here. Okay, so this value here is the same as this. I'm just using it over again because I don't really need it to be the same thing as it was here before. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this value and I'm going to declare it up here with everything else. And then when I go down here, I'm going to remove that declaration. So I can always have all my declarations up here at the top. And then I can just use them all over here down at the bottom. So now I'm going to read this line. I'm going to take in this value. And whatever value they give me, I'm going to go ahead and put that into this username value, variable. And there's no calculations needed to put on a name because it's just a name. Now I do want to guard against, okay, so someone puts the date of birth as greater than 0. But what if it wasn't greater than 0? Okay, so I'm going to put an else here. If it wasn't greater than 0, then I'm going to want the user to know that they didn't enter a proper value. Um, let's give them a little bit more information. We'll say you did not enter a proper value for the year. Please enter proper value for the year. Okay, so that's fine. All right, so after we get that year and then date of birth, and then we go ahead and we secure ourselves for any errors, because we always want to think in errors. What could happen? Obviously, this is not an extensive or an exhaustive way of doing it. We just always want to think about that as we move forward. So now here inside of the console right line, I'm getting the name. But what if they did not put anything in the name? So I want to test this value before I start putting anything in there. So I'm going to do another test here. If the value is equal to nothing. So you notice these two equals is not making this into this value. It's just testing this value and seeing if it's equal to that. So that's the difference between me putting 1 and 2 equal signs here. So it's just checking to see. It's not taking this and placing it into this value. So if it is empty, I want to say console.writeLine, please enter a name. I'm going to just say that again. And if it's not empty, I can go ahead and place that in the name. All right, so now we can get the age and we can get the name. And now what do we want to do after we get all this information? We want to go ahead and put it in the story. So how am I going to do this story? I'm going to make some room up here. I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to copy this story here. And then I'm going to go right in between these two quotes and I'm going to paste it. Now it's going to look all strange. So what I'm going to go back here is right here at the top. You see right there at the top. I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit the delete button so that everything comes up, and I'm going to hit the enter button. And if you notice what it did, it added a plus here. So it automatically put the quotes on the next line. I can just go in between here, hit enter, and you notice it made another plus. And over here, I'm just going to hit delete to bring everything back up and then hit enter again so it does the work for me. And this is a really cool formatting trick that Visual Studio does for us, so we don't have to do all that ourselves. All I need to do is hit enter there. Now I have all my quotes and everything is perfect. Now in order for this to work, so I can put the name and the age inside of this string, I'm going to have to convert this to a string formatting value. So I'm going to put the two brackets here, and I'm going to put 0 there for the name. And for the age, I'm going to put 1. And over here for the name, that would also be 0. So I'll explain this as we use this. I'm going to go ahead and format that a little bit better. So now this story right here, what I want to do is after all this stuff, we got the name, we got all that other stuff, and now we're ready to print all this stuff out. So we're asking for the name here. We'll just say here, you did not enter a name. Okay. And if they didn't enter a name, I'm going to make the name, or I think we said username, will be equals Phil. So now we have all of our stuff in place where if you don't enter a name, we're just going to automatically create a name. And if you don't add, if you don't give us an age, if age is less than 0, we're going to tell you that to please enter the proper age. And then, and we could do this right now. We don't want to make this too detailed, so we're going to leave it like this for now. But really what we should be doing is resetting it and forcing them to do another age. But this is good for now. And then I'm going to go down here at the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and use my story here. So below that, I am going to type console.writeLine And then I'm going to type inside of here the story. And then I'm going to put a comma there. And then I'm going to put username and age. Now, the reason why the age is not really giving me the right tool here, because really I didn't really put the age on the outside here. So you see I'm getting this error for the age. It doesn't know what that is, only because age is inside of this if statement. So in order to remedy this, I'm going to take this age, this int age. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to place it up there so the rest of this application can see it. I'm going to go over here and move this int. So when we look at the issue we're having here with this age here, the problem is that it has never been validated up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this age and I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to make it 0 when it first starts. I'm going to initialize it to 0. Now when I go back down here, you see there's no issue there. So let's go ahead and run our application and see how that works. Hit Control F5, asking me what year were you born? What is your name? And then we get our story. The elusive squirrel, Sandra, who is 26, crouched. And as you can see now, it's printing out that story. And then let's keep on going. When we get down to the part where we can see that name again. Where's the name again? I can already see right here. Here's the second name. But you can see what's happening here is that it's way too close. It's like butted up against the rest of the words, including up here. It's just butted up against the rest of the word. So what I'm going to do is inside of this, actually inside of here, I'm going to make some space in between. Here, yeah, we go. I'm going to make some space before it here. I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it again. And now we have this mouse here, and as you can see, Mike here as the squirrel, and then we can see, where is the other one? Mike over here, and we have that space. All I need to do is maybe put an extra line here. So this is the title, and here's where the story starts. So I'm going to want this to drop down to the next level. So the easiest way for me to do that is to go up here into my story. And as you can see, it doesn't follow the formatting that I have here. So what you can do is go here and put a /n. And what that's going to do is create a new line. So now if I run it, what you'll see is, you'll see now I get that extra line there, and it types everything out perfectly. Now I know this went a little bit long, but it went long because we wanted to do all our error corrections, our error testing first before we did anything. And that's why we went a little bit longer, because I wanted you to see these if statements and how we try to protect against, false data going through. And if we truly wanted to protect us here, so let's say here I don't put a number here in this parse. Watch what happens here. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and it's asking me what age. I'm just going to put something there, and it crashes, as you can see. This parse is trying to change whatever I put in there to a number. And this is a crash. We don't want our application crashing. So in order to make this application, much better so it doesn't crash, is I want to put this into what's called a try catch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right above this date of birth, and I'm going to type try, and then I'm going to hit tab twice. What that's going to do is going to type out or write out this area here, this try, and then this catch here, and it has a throw here. Okay, so what this is going to do, when that error pops up, it won't crash our application, but it'll catch it within this exception here. So I'm going to take all of my code down here, and I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to put it in between this try here. Okay, so now all of that's in the try. And then in the catch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do console write line. Please, you did not enter a valid age or date of birth. All right, so now when I hit F5 and I go over here and I type anything in there, you'll see instead of my application crashing, it says you did not enter a valid date of birth. This is you know, more acceptable for an application to do this as opposed to just crashing on someone because there was an error of some kind. And we can deal with this later if we want, but for right now, at least we have something that actually doesn't crash, and it deals with the possibilities of someone not putting in the proper information. If they were to go through properly and they put in some date of birth, then we don't have a problem. Even if they put in whatever they wanted for the name, that's still just a name. There's no problem. They can continue on to the application and actually have everything work perfectly. So now we want to go ahead and save our work. And the best way we're going to do that is select on your solution, go here and hit Save Short Story SLN. If you were to click on the project here, not the solution, the project, and you go here to save, it would only save the project and not the entire solution. So it does depend on what you have selected here as to what you're saving over here. To be safe, save the entire solution, go here and hit save. Now we want to zip our entire project to send it to someone. Select the solution, right click, go all the way down here to open folder in File Explorer, and then it's going to open the folder where all your information is. Now you can select these two and zip it, but what I like to do is go back one. So I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna go back one, and then I'm gonna select what I want here. I'm gonna right click, and this is the one I'm going to send to compress zip. And the reason why it won't let me do it right now is because the project is open. So I make sure I save everything. I find the folder location, I close my project, I go back one folder, I right click, I go here to send to compress zip, and then it'll zip. But as you can see, you have to make sure it's closed, because every time I try to do it, it wasn't completely closed. Visual Studio has to be closed in order for you to go ahead and zip that project. And this is what I would email or ship to my friend or whatever. The entire project's in here. So all they need to do is right click on this or just go up here to extract, and everything will be there. So understand, it only went longer not just because we were trying to do everything in a more sophisticated way by putting everything in variables, but we also wanted to make sure that we address any sort of errors that can pop up. And you have to start thinking in the way of errors early. You know, so it's like a test-driven development. You're testing it, and then you're making sure that the user can't crash it simply by putting in normal information or missed information. So hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.